Welcome to another episode of Mike's Money Picks. Today on the podcast, we are in the final week of the college football regular season. We are talking about week 14, and we're going to be talking about the slate that is on Black Friday, the Friday main slate. We're going to break down every game that is on the Friday DraftKings main slate, tell you what you can expect from every single game, as well as who needs to be in or out of your DraftKings and FanDuel lineups, as well as any leans if you're looking to bet any player props or sides and totals for these games. Y'all, I got to say, I really like this Friday slate every single year. This Friday slate is, to me, it's a ball knower slate, right? Like if you have played all of the Tuesday and Wednesday slates, all of the night and late night slates, like you're going to know all these teams. There's a lot of G5 teams on here. There's a lot of G5 games on here. And so if you've been playing all of the slates for college football DFS or been betting all of the college football games, not just the big ones, this is going to be a slate where you're going to have a real knowledge advantage on. And this is the kind of slate where I can really, I tend to do well on this slate because it, combines some of the G5 stuff with a lot of the main slate that, the Power 4 teams that people know about. So really looking forward to this slate. If you have not already, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. That we can be with us for the rest of our college football content through the rest of the regular season, as well as the college football playoff. This week, we are going to have the live show on either Thursday or Friday night. Haven't ironed that out yet, but either way, if you're subscribed, you'll be notified when we go live. If we go live Thursday, we'll be breaking down this slate as well as the Saturday slate. If we go live on Friday, it'll obviously just beat the Saturday slate. But anyway, that does it for the introduction, y'all. Let's go ahead and dive right into this 10-game slate. All right, game number one with a noon Eastern time kickoff is going to be the Egg Bowl. Ole Miss taking on Mississippi State. Ole Miss is 7.5-point favorites in this one with a game total of 62.5 points, meaning the implied total is about 35-27 in favor of the Ole Miss Rebels. Y'all, this is like a dream spot for Ole Miss, but the problem is that like their players have been priced up, especially at quarterback Trinidad Chambliss. Basically, we have seen Trinidad Chambliss be the starter ever since about week 3 this season, and let's be honest, he's been great. He's been a great DFS play. Like every game that he started since the Arkansas game, he's been over 20 DraftKings points in every single game. That is a level of consistency that you just don't normally see, right? But the problem is that now he's up here at $9,800. He needs to give you 30 in order for you to feel comfortable about getting that value in return, right? He hasn't done that in 4 games, and he's only done that 3 times. That's not great. Now, the bright side is that Mississippi State is one of the worst defenses in the SEC. So if there were a time for him to do it, then theoretically it would be now, right? But I don't know, man. I struggle to pay that price tag for Trinidad Chambliss. A guy that I'm not going to struggle to pay the price tag for is running back Kawan Lacey. They are feeding this man right now. He had 31 carries in the game against Florida, ran for 224 yards and 3 touchdowns, put up 45.9 DraftKings points. So that continued a streak where he's been over 25 DraftKings points in 3 straight games. He has not had a single game this season under 18 DraftKings points. He has been the modicum of consistency at the running back position. This is a team that wants to run the football, wants to win by running the football. So Kawan Lacey, $8,000. I think he's the top overall running back play on the slate, just at first glance. Now, at the wide receiver position for Ole Miss, this is where things do get a little bit dicey for them. First off, because Trinidad Chambliss is a dual threat, you just don't see this like great amount of passing volume from this team. And second off, they really do spread the ball around with the guys that are active. In recent weeks, it's really been condensed a little bit, but not a whole lot between Harrison Wallace and Dejon Stribling. Harrison Wallace has definitely seen the most volume over the last few weeks. 8 catches against the Citadel, 6 against Florida. And then Stribling has kind of been their big play guy in that stretch. He had 4 for 76 and a touchdown against Florida. Also had the long touchdown against Georgia. So if you're playing Chambliss, you want to stack him with one of those 2 guys, Stribling or Wallace. But like still, there could just be these random touchdowns scored, like Daquan Wright, Winston Watkins, Caden Lee, Deuce Alexander. They could all just randomly score a touchdown, which is kind of annoying. So it does make the Ole Miss receiving core really frustrating to play for DFS. Now, on the Mississippi State side, they've got Blake Shapen at quarterback, who's been in college for seemingly forever. Like, I swear he's on the Bo Nix plan or something. Like, he's just been around and around and around. He's not bad. 3 of the last 4 games, he put up 18 DraftKings points. The only one he didn't was against Georgia. The Ole Miss defense is about middle of the road in the SEC. I think $7,600 is a little too expensive for Blake Shapen for me personally. The running back position for Mississippi State is a true running back committee between Fluff Bothwell and Devon Booth. I mean, this is a team that likes to pass the ball anyway, and they're splitting carries at running back, hard pass. At the wide receiver position, they do have really two guys that they throw to, which does make life a little bit easier. Anthony Evans, the Georgia transfer. He's had some big games this season, 2 games over 28 DraftKings points. I don't mind the idea of getting to him. And then there's also Brendan Thompson, the Oklahoma transfer, who's been a little more consistent, but also has shown a ceiling, 3 games over 25 DraftKings points, a little higher ADOT for Brendan Thompson. So I do think that both of these guys are playable. I don't know if they're going to be like core plays or anything, but definitely guys you can get to in a game stack, or if you're playing enough lineups, they're guys that you can have in your player pool. Next up, we've got Utah taking on Kansas. Utah is listed as 11.5-point favorites with a game total of 59.5 points, meaning the implied total is about 35 to 24 in favor of Utah. So let's go ahead and talk about the Utes, right? So what's kind of annoying is that they are just randomly bringing in Bird Ficklin for snaps at quarterback, and it's to run the football. And what makes it really annoying is that it's lessening the overall upside of regular starter Devin Dampier. And because of the salary that Ficklin is at, like if he were $4,500, he could be legitimately worth a look as like this GPP dart throw quarterback, right? But he's $7,200. He's right behind Dampier in pricing. So he's unplayable because he's only playing limited snaps. But the playing of Ficklin is just lessening the upside of Dampier. I really don't like it for DFS, but Kansas is a really good matchup, y'all. Like just a really, really good matchup. Dampier's going to do a lot of his damage in the run game, right? And Kansas currently ranks 111th nationally in rushing yards allowed per game. So it's a really good matchup for a running quarterback. If I knew that Ficklin wasn't going to play any snaps, I would love Dampier, but I just can't get all the way behind it because I think Ficklin's going to vulture him a little bit. At the running back position, this has finally been ironed out. It's not really a running back committee anymore. It's Wayshawn Parker's backfield. He's $6,700. He's had over 14 DraftKings points in each of the last 4 games, double-digit carries each of the last 4 games, scored 3 touchdowns in that span. Hit 100 yards in all 4 of those games. And like I said, Kansas, very bad run defense. So this is a really good spot for Wayshawn Parker. Definitely like the idea of playing him at $6,700. At the wide receiver position, Utah really doesn't have a whole lot of passing volume because Dampier is primarily a runner. And like we said, that when they bring in Ficklin, he certainly ain't throwing. But they do have one bona fide wide receiver, and that is Ryan Davis. He's had 75 targets on the season, which is really good. He had a goose egg against Kansas State after only being held to 1 catch against Baylor. So he's really kind of cooling off, limping to the finish here. But there's definitely some juice to squeeze there. I definitely think that he's still playable. Dallin Bentley is the tight end. He's not bad. He scored touchdowns each of the last 2 weeks. I think $5,000 is a little expensive. And then Creed Whitmore has been hurt for quite a bit, but he's recently played and he had 6 catches last week against Kansas State. I don't think that's nothing. And then you also got Larry Simmons, 4 catches in that game against Kansas State. So basically the work that was going to Ryan Davis has kind of been gone to Whitmore and Simmons, but like, I don't know. I'd rather just have it all go back to Ryan Davis. Next up, we've got the Kansas Jayhawks. So they are still quarterbacked by Jalen Daniels, another guy who's seemingly been in college forever now. And y'all, after seeing what Avery Johnson and the Kansas State rushing offense just did to Utah to the tune of over 400 rushing yards, you got to be a little interested in Jalen Daniels, right? At $7,100. Now, he hasn't been great for this price tag this season. Like, you want him to get at least 21 DraftKings points, which he's only done for the first 4 games of the season, and then once against Arizona. So in Big 12 play, he hasn't been like this lights out guy, but we saw what just happened at Utah, and maybe there's a little bit of interest there. He is a dual threat. He can certainly take advantage of that ground game. Now, at the running back position, this is what we don't like about Kansas. It's a true 50-50 committee between Hyshawn Williams, and I just have no interest in playing it if that's the case. At the wide receiver position, there's really only one guy we need to talk about. Emmanuel Henderson Jr. does lead the team in targets and in fantasy points by a pretty significant margin. He's a big play guy against Cincinnati. He went off for 41 DraftKings points. So if you're looking to stack this Kansas side, you know it's going to be Daniels and Henderson. You don't know about running back, obviously, but Daniels and Henderson would be very clearly the stacking partners to pick on this Kansas side. So this is a game where I might actually build out a game stack up just because with Utah, you can play Dampier, you can play Davis, and you can play Daniels, you can play Henderson, or maybe you could even play the Utah running back Parker, but you kind of know where the production's coming from. So if this game does in fact shoot out, it's quite likely that the players you picked are going to be the ones that you're going to need. All right, game number 3. We got Iowa taking on Nebraska, and Iowa is 6.5-point favorites with a game total of 39.5 points, meaning the implied total is about 23-17 in favor of Iowa. Now, the good news here for Iowa is that Nebraska's defense has no interest in stopping the run. They rank 100th nationally in rushing yards allowed. They've given up a lot of big games to running backs and a lot of big games to mobile quarterbacks. For Nebraska, all of Bryce Underwood, Nico Iamaleava, and then, hold on, I need to see their schedule again. There was one more mobile quarterback that hurt Nebraska, and I didn't put it in my notes, and now I'm regretting it. Hold on. I'm gonna remember it. It was Nico, it was Bryce Underwood, and it was, I guess you could say, Brendan Sorsby hurt him a little bit with his legs. Yeah. So yeah, basically those mobile quarterbacks have really given Nebraska issues. And basically, Mark Gronowski, all he does is run. He ain't interested in passing. He's there to run the football. And so when he has these games where he does run for a lot of yards, a lot of touchdowns, he's going to hit value for DFS at a salary of $6,000, right? You look at what he's done just in Big Ten play. 4 out of the last 5 games, he's been over 17.8 DraftKings points. We'll take that at $6,000. So he really is one of my favorite value quarterback plays on the slate, just because of the cheap price tag and the fact that what he does is Nebraska's specific weakness. Now, you can run on Nebraska, and if Iowa were to run it and it were not to be Gronowski, it would be Kamari Moulton. He's kind of running cold a little bit lately, though. Has not scored a touchdown since October 11th against Wisconsin, but he's still the workhorse running back. This is still an offense that wants to run the football, and all he would need is a game where he doesn't get vultured by Gronowski, and he could absolutely hit value. I think he's an interesting GBP play for that reason. And then, y'all, we're not going to talk about any Iowa receivers. As much as I like Gronowski, I'm not here to stack him. I mean, maybe you could argue for Jacob Gill. Maybe. I'm not doing it. Not doing it. And y'all, honestly, I don't think I'm there with Nebraska either. Iowa's a really good run defense, really good pass defense. And Nebraska's offense has been really constipated since TJ Lateef has taken over for the injured Dylan Raiola. None of the receivers, even though they only throw to 3 guys, Hunter, Barney, and Key, none of those receivers have had a game over 12 DraftKings points since Lateef has taken over. Now, you could argue for Emmett Johnson at the running back position. He has been an absolute machine in the 3 games since Raiola has gotten hurt, including the USC game where he did get hurt. 29, 50, and 26 DraftKings points against Penn State defense last week. That's pretty good. It's mainly because he sees a ton of work in the passing game. So I think Iowa's a really bad matchup, but you can't ignore Emmett Johnson's production and workload for what he's done since Dylan Raiola has gotten injured. All right, next game up, we've got a little bit of Friday action here. We've got Ohio taking on Buffalo. Ohio is 6.5-point favorites with a game total of 44.5 points, meaning the implied total is about 26-19 in favor of Ohio. So here's the problem we're running into with some of the MAC players on this slate, y'all. They're kind of priced for their MACtion slates. And what I mean by that is Parker Navarro is worth a whole lot more on a 2-game slate than he is a 10-game slate. And so you end up with a scenario here where, wow, Parker Navarro is $8,700. And you would need a performance of about 26 DraftKings points to even start to feel good about it. And that's a number that he hit in week 1 against Rutgers, against Bowling Green, and then against Eastern Michigan. He's only done that 3 times this season. That's not what we're looking for, right? Now, Buffalo is not a great defense. Parker Navarro is a dual threat. So is there some upside there in the fact that nobody's going to play him, especially? Yeah, maybe there is. Maybe this is one of those situations where a bad play on paper turns into a good one because nobody plays him and he goes off. But I really don't think that that's where Navarro should be priced. I think that's a misprice in the wrong direction, and I'm not really here for it. At the running back position, I do like Sia Bangura for Ohio. He's just a super consistent performer. 4 out of the last 5 games, he's been over 27 DraftKings points. He's going to get some consideration for me. Y'all, I really do like the pay-ups at running back here on this slate, and he is one of them that I do like. At the wide receiver position, so Chase Hendricks, but I want to call him Coleman. Chase Hendricks has been great over the course of the season for Ohio, but he's been a dud each of the last 2 weeks. That is lowering his price down to $6,900. I thought we would get more of a discount than that. If you're playing an Ohio receiver, it's him, but I don't think you need to go that direction. Meanwhile, on the Buffalo side, Buffalo is they're kind of annoying because they have this super condensed offense, but it hasn't been like up to expectation. And so their guys are often like not hitting value for their price tags because they're expected to do better. And then that's like the perfect description for quarterback Daquan Roberson. He's been okay this season, but he hasn't scored a ton of fantasy points, especially judging from the salaries he's been at, especially on the action slates. So he's a pass for me. At the running back position, I feel the same way about Al-Jay Henderson. This is a guy we were drafting in the first 2 rounds of full FBS best ball drafts in the offseason. And he's still getting the workload. He's still not bad yards per carry, but he's not scoring a lot of touchdowns, which is lessening his overall value. And I don't think you can play him here on this slate. The 2 guys you can play are Snow and McMillan, 2 receivers for this team. Snow just went off against Miami of Ohio for 29.4 DraftKings points. McMillan has actually seen more volume over the course of the season, has scored much less touchdowns than Snow, but McMillan's now hit 5 straight games over 20 DraftKings points. The Ohio defense is pretty good. It's one of the best in the MAC, but you have 2 really high floor, steady workload receivers in Snow and McMillan. And then if you're looking for a GPP type play, Josiah Gathings could be a guy that could be that because his role in the offense is not as far behind Snow and McMillan as his price tag is, if that makes sense. All right, next up, we got some more Friday action. We've got Kent State taking on Northern Illinois. These are 2 bad teams. Northern Illinois is 4.5-point favorites. Game total of 44.5 points, meaning the implied total is about 24-20 in favor of the Huskies. But man, with the inflated price tags that some of these guys are at, I don't think you have to play any of them. Northern Illinois is a team that's going to run the ball into oblivion. They're going to look to slow the game down and lessen the overall number of snaps, which makes them not an ideal matchup if you're not an offense that can produce splash plays, and I'm not seeing that out of Kent State. Drew DeShields was great against Akron, but has been pretty meh in every game other than that, so I'm not really here for him in this one. At running back, they're splitting snaps between Gavin Garcia and Jordan Newman. Not interested in that. Now, they are pretty condensed at wide receiver. They really do only throw to Deshaun Martin, Wayne Harris, and Cade Wolford. But the problem is A, which one? And B, will they even be able to? Like, I don't know. Like, I don't think you have to play anybody from this side. And really, like, the Northern Illinois side is even worse than that. The only good news for Northern Illinois is that I do think that both of their running backs are playable. Kent State ranks 106th in rushing yards allowed nationally. It's pretty bad. And Northern Illinois is going to look to run it with both Siobhan Wright, who's getting more carries at the moment, and Telly Johnson Jr., who's more effective at the moment. Why they insist on running Siobhan Wright 20 times when Telly Johnson Jr. is the better player is beyond me. But I do think the matchup does make both of these guys in play in GPPs. I'm avoiding the Northern Illinois passing attack entirely. Their quarterback position is such in flux. Josh Holst was the starter. He was randomly benched. I don't even think he was hurt. And Jalen Macon played 1 game and was really good against UMass, but they're terrible. And last week, Macon started and was bad and got benched for Brady Davidson. I don't know who they start, but whoever they've been playing at quarterback, the backups have made even wide receiver 1 De'Ari Rogers unplayable, so I'm completely off of this passing attack. All right, that is 5 games down, 5 to go. Let's take a quick breather, and then we're going to get on with the second half. All right, now before we continue, I do want to mention there are places where you can get more information from me. First off, you can follow me on Twitter at Mike's to me on Twitter, as well as where I tweet out all updates for the show. So if you just want to stay in the loop with what we got going on, Twitter is the place to go. Also, I'm in the Fantasy Corner Discord. Link is in the description below. It's a community of a bunch of really good, really smart people who play DFS for a ton of different sports and are just constantly in there talking strategy, talking plays, talking lineups, talking injury news. It's a great place to go if you're just looking at kind of stay in the loop and kind of get a beat on what people are thinking on this slate. But also, it's a great place to jump in on the discussion, meet some great people, and just talk ball and sweat it out together. And I cannot recommend it enough if you're looking for a community to be a part of. And it's 100% free. And also, if you're looking for who actually makes my college football DFS lineups, head on over to the Patreon, patreon.com/Mike'sMoneyPicks. Every single college football DFS slate, I have an article with my core plays, as well as why they are my core plays. So you not only get the information listed, but you get a full write-up why from somebody who knows what they're talking about. I'm never going to just sit here and promise that you're just going to win thousands of dollars by playing those players. It's not that easy. Anyone who promises that is lying to you. What I can promise is that you are going to get well-researched, well-thought-out information from somebody who knows what they're talking about, who can help make you better. All right, let's talk now about game number 6, battle in the Mountain West. Air Force taking on Colorado State. Air Force is 2.5-point favorites with a game total of 45.5, meaning the implied total is about 24-21 in favor of the Falcons. Now, Colorado State is really bad. They're playing without a head coach. They're ranked 128th nationally in rushing yards allowed, and all Air Force wants to do is run it, right? Because that's what service academies do. But Houston, we have a problem. Or I guess Colorado Springs, we have a problem, right? And Colorado Springs, where Air Force is, maybe. Kemper Hodges is the starting quarterback for Air Force. DraftKings did the right thing and has him listed as a quarterback. Problem is he entered the season listed as a running back on the depth chart. And if you're sitting there thinking, wow, does that mean he can throw? No, he cannot throw. Last game he played, he completed 1 out of 5 passes. He ain't in there to throw. He's in there to run. It's kind of like the old Cardale Jones. I ain't come here to play school. Yeah, Kemper Hodges ain't come here to play quarterback. He came here to play running back. So that's what he does. Problem is, he hadn't really done a whole lot with it. Even when he was the starter, hasn't put up a game of more than 7.5 DraftKings points. What they do when they want to throw is they bring in Josh Johnson. No, not that Josh Johnson who's played for 90 NFL teams. This is another Josh Johnson, but he's not in the game enough to score a whole lot of fantasy points. So is there an Air Force running back we can play? Well, maybe, but they play a rotation of running backs because they run an option offense where they play multiple guys. And so they've got Owen Allen, who had some pretty big games on the docket so far this season. Dylan Carson was the guy that was supposed to start the season and be pretty good. You're at the mercy of whoever scores the touchdowns between those two. And then, oh, by the way, they've also got Cade Frew, who is a factor. So I don't really like the idea of playing an Air Force guy, even though this is about as good of a matchup as they're going to get. At the wide receiver position, you could actually play A-back Cade Harris, and I say A-back because he is often the pitch back in the triple option, which is how they create a lot of their explosives. It's how he's had some of his bigger games. I don't mind the idea of getting to Cade Harris, but man, you're really spinning the roulette wheel with this Air Force team, knowing that they cannot throw the ball. And when they run the ball, you don't know who's going to be running it. I think if you're looking for like a GPP play, maybe the quarterback, I forgot his name already, Hodges. Maybe the quarterback Kemper Hodges is the move. I don't know. I just, good luck if you want to figure that one out. Now, I also feel pretty bad critiquing the defense of a service academy because it feels like you could be taken out of context and critiquing our great country. But Air Force defense is pretty bad, y'all. They allow, or they're 103rd in rushing yards allowed and 125th nationally in passing yards allowed. That's real bad. Like it's just bad. Colorado State has been starting Darius Curry at quarterback. He scored 13 and 18 DraftKings points in his 2 starts. That ain't terrible. And this is a much better defensive matchup than those 2 games. That's about all I got on that. At the running back position, it is a bit of a committee for Colorado State. The good news is that both of them are pretty good. You've got Lloyd Avant and Justin Marshall. They're both pretty good. They split carries, but the carry split is definitely going to eat into their upside. And it definitely has been Avant who has had the upper hand in the last few weeks. Avant is also much more involved in the passing game. So I think Avant would definitely be the guy you would want. And then at the wide receiver position for Colorado State, they have a tight end who has one of the best names in all of college football. It's Rocky Beers. He's had a huge coming out party since they switched quarterbacks. 7 catches in each of the last 2 games, over 19 DraftKings points in each of the last 2 games. Not a bad look at $5,100. Like, this is kind of an underrated game to get to because of the fact that both of these defenses are really bad. But the bad news is both the offenses are really bad. So we kind of talked about this on some of the action slates. When bad defenses play bad offenses, you don't really know who's going to win out, which kind of makes the players on those bad offenses viable because what if the game does, in fact, shoot out? Now, next game up is San Diego State and New Mexico. This is the complete antithesis of what we just talked about. San Diego State is 1.5-point favorites with a game total of 41.5 points, meaning the implied total is about 21-20 in favor of New Mexico. This is 2 bad offenses playing 2 good defenses. I do not see a scenario where this game shoots out, which makes Jaden Denegal, the starting quarterback for San Diego State, and the entire receiving corps for San Diego State completely unplayable, in my opinion. Where I will play this San Diego State team, though, is at the running back position, which is Lucky Sutton. So we've talked about all season long, when you have a workhorse running back in college football DFS, you play him and you're willing to pay for him. And Lucky Sutton is a workhorse running back. In each of the last 5 games, he's carried the ball at least 18 times. And the time that was the lowest was the 18 was the time they got boat raced on the island at Hawaii. That's not going to happen here. And so he gives you just this super steady high floor, but also upside because he hasn't really had like this monster, like 3 touchdown game yet this year, right? So you kind of feel like it's coming, like it's on the way. And I do think the way you beat this New Mexico team is on the ground. So I do like Lucky Sutton for San Diego State. For New Mexico, not interested in their quarterback, Jack Lane, not interested in their receivers, Keegan Johnson and the rest of the crew. The running back position, I would be interested if it wasn't a committee, right? Like Bankston, who had 19 carries combined in the last 2 weeks. McKinney has had 31 carries combined in the last 2 weeks. And then Scott Trey Humphrey is kind of being game planned out. He only had 2 carries in each of the last 2 weeks. But so it seemed like it's McKinney's backfield, but yet still you're dealing with this split that could change at a moment's notice. Against a very good San Diego State defense, I'm kind of out on New Mexico as a whole. All right, next up, we've got Temple taking on North Texas. Little game with American Conference Championship implications. North Texas, they win and they are into the conference championship game, which means they'll have a chance to appear in the college football playoff, which is, it would be monumental for that program. Like it would put them on the map. It bring in some of their players as household names, which is good. This team's got some really good skill players. And their coach may or may not be leaving. I saw a rumor that he's heading to Oklahoma State. We'll see if that ends up panning out or not. But North Texas, big game for them. And Temple, under Casey Keeler, has been pretty good in year 1, and they're coming in to try to spoil the coming out party, right? North Texas is 19.5-point favorites in this game. Game total of 65.5, which is the slate's highest. That means the implied total is about 42-23 in favor of the Mean Green. That makes North Texas the highest implied team total on the entire slate. Now, on the Temple side, North Texas is a run funnel. They rank 14th nationally in passing yards allowed and 134th nationally in rushing yards allowed. You can run on North Texas. You don't really throw on North Texas. And Evan Simon, Temple's quarterback, has had a pretty good year considering he was not supposed to be very good at all. He's only thrown 1 interception. But I don't think this is the spot for him in this game at North Texas. Now, if you want to like play this game stack lineup and say like, hey, what if this game shoots out? Go for it. But I don't think this is the spot for him. I think the way you want to do this is by playing the skill guys on Temple because they're actually lately have been a very condensed offense. Jay Ducker is the starting running back. He came over with Casey Keeler from Sam Houston State. His workloads have kind of varied. In the games where they get boat raced, he doesn't really do a whole lot. In the games that they win, he's been great. And so if you think that they keep this game somewhat close, Jay Ducker would be your guy. I think he's one of the best cheap running back options on the slate at $5,100. At the wide receiver position, Temple has been really concentrated lately. They will throw a little bit to Kasia Holloway. They will throw a little bit to Colin Chase, who's had 16 catches over the last 3 weeks. But I'm sorry, I messed that up. They will throw a little bit to Bermudez, who's had 7 catches over the last 2 weeks. They throw a lot now to Colin Chase. I got my order wrong there, y'all, in my notes. My bad. Colin Chase has been their guy. 16 catches in the last 3 weeks, double-digit DraftKings points each of the last 3 weeks. It seems that no matter what the game script is, he's the guy that you want to play at wide receiver for this team. He's only $3,500. I think he's one of the best punt wide receivers on the slate. Now on the North Texas side, this is weird for North Texas because you think of North Texas in the recent years, they've been this air raid, throw it all over the yard, no huddle, up-tempo team, right? They've still gone a little bit up-tempo, but they don't throw the ball a whole lot. And Temple's 124th nationally in rushing yards allowed. So this seems like a game where North Texas should just be able to run on them, right? Which is not good news for Drew Mestemaker. Drew Mestemaker, like I said, because of the pace that this team plays at, because of the touchdown equity that he has for how good this offense has been, he's had some huge games this year. Like huge, 33 against UTSA, 40 against Charlotte, where he threw for 600 yards against my alma mater, and then about 40 against Rice, right? But he's really dependent on getting there on not a lot of volume, which is what worries me about playing him at $8,300, right? Like you're asking him to ride this very narrow path. Now, if you want to play it, you think this game shoots out, you think that he's going to have to throw the ball, go for it. But the most likely outcome of this game is a big Caleb Hawkins game. Caleb Hawkins, North Texas is starting running back. He's the highest priced player on the slate at $10,000, but for good reason. 2 of his last 3 games, he's been over 50 DraftKings points. He is the new workhorse running back. He gets a ton of carries. He gets usage in the passing game when they throw. He has a super high floor, super high ceiling. He is objectively probably going to be the slate's top scorer, but he's $10,000, so you're really paying for it. So mathematically, what I'm looking at, I would rather pay $8K for Lacey than $10K for Hawkins, but I do like Hawkins. He is going to make my player pool. At the wide receiver position, this is where North Texas is kind of frustrating because, like I said, they don't have a whole lot of passing volume. So the guys in this receiving room are having to get there off of big plays and touchdowns, which is a very, very fine line to go with, right? The guy that has been getting consistent volume has been Wyatt Young. He has had 5 catches or more in each of the last 6 games. And in 5 of those 6 games, he hit 22 DraftKings points. In 4 of those 6, he hit 33 DraftKings points. So he is very consistently, steadily putting up big totals. And I think he's the guy you want at the wide receiver position if you're playing anybody on North Texas at wide receiver. Next game up, we've got the clean, old-fashioned hate between Georgia and Georgia Tech. If you don't think this rivalry is a big deal, then you must not know anybody from the state of Georgia. My extended family on my mom's side all lives in Georgia. Half of them are Georgia fans, half of them are Georgia Tech fans. This is a big deal because let me tell you, even in years where they're not good, Georgia Tech fans think that they're going to win this game just because it's Georgia, which is just crazy, right? Anyway, this game is going to be interesting. Georgia's 13.5-point favorites with a game total of 59.5, meaning the implied total is about 36-23 in favor of the Dogs. Now, let's talk about this Georgia side. So first off, this game is being played on a neutral field. So this is not like at Georgia Tech. This is going to be at Mercedes-Benz Stadium where the Falcons play. This is going to be an 80% Georgia crowd. You can treat this like a home game. And quite frankly, I think Georgia blows them out. I think Georgia is playing really well right now. I think Georgia Tech is backsliding. I think this is a perfect time, perfect scenario for Georgia to get Georgia Tech right now. Georgia Tech, their defense, the wheels are falling off lately. They rank 94th in rushing yards allowed and 100th in passing yards allowed. Each of the last 3 quarterbacks that have played Georgia Tech have all had massive games, and I think Gunnar Stockton's going to add to the list. He is my preferred pay-up option at the quarterback position on this slate. We've seen Gunnar Stockton have big games, 4 games over 33 DraftKings points. He's a dual threat. He can run, he can throw. I think he makes it 4. I think this is absolutely a big-time game for Gunnar Stockton. Great spot for him. And I think also the added variable with Georgia. Hold on, where was I going with that? Hold on, y'all. I got to think. I just got a notification on my phone that got me sidetracked. The added variable with Georgia is the fact that they are not super healthy at the running back position. Chauncey Bowens, probable for this game, has been banged up. Don't really know how he's going to go in this one. Nate Frazier was the workhorse in that game against Charlotte, but was not really needed all that much. If we get a Nate Frazier workhorse like game, then Nate Frazier could absolutely have a big game. We saw Jaden Scott from NC State almost put up 200 yards against Georgia Tech. We just saw Turner from Pitt put up over 100 yards against Georgia Tech. You can run on Georgia Tech. Nate Frazier's a guy that could do it. And now I remember what it was. The added variable for this game with Georgia is the fact that Georgia Tech almost beat them last year in that legendary 12 overtime game or whatever it was. I think it was 9. So they're not going to let Georgia Tech sneak up on them this year. You're going to get the absolute best out of Georgia. And at the wide receiver position, I think one of the absolute best wide receiver plays on the slate is Zachariah Branch. He's been a little bit quiet in his last 2 games, but it's been because he hasn't really been needed, right? He was coming off of back-to-back games over 20 against Mississippi State and Florida. I think he can do that here. This is a guy that they get the ball on jet sweeps, on screens, very low ADOT. Now they're also starting to use him as a deep downfield target, which was more his game at USC. So the fact that he's just going to touch the ball so many times at $5,600 and has a chance every time he touches it to take it to the house because he's just that fast, I think this is a great spot for Branch at $5,600. He's one of my favorite wide receiver plays of the slate. They've also been getting Noah Thomas more and more involved as the season has gone on. I think he's a very interesting, cheap receiver at 3,600. He's been over 10 DraftKings points in each of the last 3 games. And then Dylan Bell's a guy that I've banged the drum for quite a bit as well. They will also get him the ball on a lot of designed runs and stuff like that. They'll give him carries in the red zone, just try to get him to score. I'd rather probably play Thomas at 3,600, but I do like Bell at 3,700 as well. Now, on the Georgia Tech side, they've got Haynes King. And in my article last week for my core plays for the night slate, Haynes King was in there, and I made a comparison that I'm going to make here on the main show. Haynes King, playing him in DFS is kind of like playing Josh Allen in DFS. You want to play Haynes King and Josh Allen in games where Super Josh or Super Haynes has to come out. And what I mean by that is this. You've got a phenomenal athlete who at a moment's notice can be asked to go out and make the plays to win the game for his team. That doesn't happen when his team is not pressed. It doesn't happen when his team has a big lead. It doesn't happen in blowouts. It happens in close game environments and shootouts. And so what you see with Haynes King is you see his biggest games come in games where Super Haynes has to come out. I'm talking when he had 51 against NC State, which was in a loss. I'm talking about when he had 32 against Virginia Tech, 39 in a comeback win at Wake Forest, 40 in a comeback win at Colorado. Like, when Georgia Tech gets down and gets pushed, Haynes King has to turn into Super Haynes. And I think this is a game where he's going to have to turn into Super Haynes. Last year, he put up, 51 DraftKings points, if my math is correct, against Georgia. So I do think that the potential is there. Obviously, it's not an ideal matchup against Georgia's defense, but the potential is there because he's going to be asked to carry this offense. At the running back position, I do like Jamal Haynes. He's starting to kind of shift the workload back more in his direction, mainly because he's getting used in the passing game. But Malachi Hosley is also a guy that is involved in the offense as well. It just makes playing the two of them kind of annoying because they're both dealing with getting vultured by Haynes King for rushing touchdowns, and now they're dealing with each other. It's just kind of annoying. I don't think I'm very interested in playing either of them. At the wide receiver position, Georgia Tech's been an interesting handicap all season long at wide receiver, but the good news is they're all cheap. The problem is that they've been really hard to figure out. Eric Rivers is probably the most talented one. He was coming off of some pretty big games before having a dud against Pitt. Malik Rutherford is the slot low ADOT guy, easy to get the ball to, 11 catches in his last 2 games, but prior to that, hadn't really had a whole lot of success this year. And then you also have Jordan Allen, who had a huge 3 games, I should say, against Boston College, NC State, and Syracuse, and then put up a dud against Pitt. If you watch the Pitt game, and I watched every minute of it, golly, it felt like every pass Georgia Tech threw was to Isaiah Canyon. It says he was only targeted 7 times, but it feels like more than that watching the game. And he was especially targeted in the red zone where he had 2 touchdowns, put up 22.7 DraftKings points. So is that a sign that Canyon is going to be their go-to guy going forward? Possibly. But the good news is that you got 4 cheap receivers for Georgia Tech. It's going to be one of them. I don't know which one it's going to be, but it's likely going to be one of them if Haynes King does put on his cape and turn into Super Haynes. All right, next up, last game of the day. Let's talk about Boise State heading to Utah to take on Utah State. Boise is 3.5-point favorites in this one, with a game total of 55.5 points, meaning the implied total is about 29-26 in favor of the Broncos. Now, what we've seen out of Boise since their starting quarterback, Maddox Madsen, has gotten hurt, is they've gone with this super conservative running offense, right? Like the starter, Max Cutforth, or I guess the backup now turned starter, has not had a game of double-digit DraftKings points all year. Maddox Madsen's listed as doubtful for this one. I don't think he plays. I thought he was out for the season, so I don't think he plays. At the running back position, here's the problem with Boise State. Just when you think you have it figured out, they throw you a curveball. Dylan Riley had turned into this super efficient, super productive, big-time run-creating performer that had some massive games in DraftKings scoring and really looked like the running back one, was coming off of 21 carries against San Diego State. And then against Colorado State, he puts up 14 for 72 and a touchdown for 15.6 DraftKings points. And you might be thinking, oh, that doesn't sound so bad, Mike. But what could have been? Because Sire Gaines kind of came out of nowhere, 22 for 149 and 2 touchdowns in that game for 32 DraftKings points. So just imagine if Riley was used as the workhorse back, how much he could have had in that game. But Sire Gaines was great. And so what it does now is it creates a situation against a very poor Utah State run defense that ranks 105th nationally in rushing yards allowed, where you don't know which one it's going to be between Riley and Gaines. And then, oh, by the way, don't count out Malik Sherrod, who also had 7 for 56 and 2 touchdowns in that game. So it's a three-headed monster. I don't know which one it's going to be that gets all of the work. I don't know which one it's going to be that gets all the touchdowns. But I do know that the matchup is great, and I do know they're going to run the football. So if you want to spin the roulette wheel, if you're playing enough lineups, you want to try out different Boise backs, feel free to. The matchup is great. You know they're going to run, but picking which one is quite the issue. At the wide receiver position for Boise, here is another issue we're running into. They're just not a good passing offense anymore. They're just not. Chris Marshall has had a good year, but not really lately. Latrell Caples, 7 catches in each of the last 2 games, but they've gone for 40 and 70 yards. It's not very long ADOT there. And then Chase Penry has been involved, but now he's $4,500. That's a little expensive for me. Yeah, it's just annoying. Yeah, I don't really think you can play any of these guys. Now let's talk about the Utah State side. So Utah State has one of the most consistent, highest floor quarterbacks that also has upside, and that is Bryson Barnes. And the reason why he is so consistent and has such a high floor is because of what he does in the run game. For the last 5 games, he's been over 26 DraftKings points. 2 of those games, he's hit 100 rushing yards. He's just a very good running mobile quarterback, and that makes him very hard to keep off of the board in terms of DraftKings points. I think he's a very solid play in all formats at $7,900. At the running back position, there are 2 that you need to know for Utah State. If you've played all the night slates this year, watched my content on it or read my core plays on it, you know my thoughts on them. Miles Davis is pretty good, but they don't give him like the full workload. And the reason why is because Javen Jacobs is such a good pass catching back. He's such a big part, an integral part of this passing offense that it eats into Miles Davis's workload. And so Jacobs is the guy that you probably want if you're building out a game stack or if you're stacking with Bryson Barnes, because he could get a receiving touchdown or he could get 8 catches for 40 yards or something like that and get you points where you're sharing it with the quarterback. Now, at the wide receiver position for Utah State, here's the good news. They only throw to 2 guys. It's Pegan and Boyd. Braden Pegan has been the most consistent guy all season long. He's been kind of dry lately in terms of touchdowns, only scored once in the last 6 games, which is kind of uncharacteristic. And he's still been over 15 DraftKings points in 5 of those 6, over 20 DraftKings points in 3 of them. So I don't mind him. I also don't mind Brady Boyd. He has been the guy who's been scoring the touchdowns, 4 combined in the last 3 games. I think both of them are in play, especially if you're looking to stack with Bryson Barnes. And I'd probably be stacking Bryson Barnes with one of them. But all right, y'all, that is going to do it here for this Friday slate. Had 10 games to break down, got through it all. Like I said, a lot of G5 teams, a lot of teams that if you've been playing college football DFS, if you've been watching on the weeknights and kind of the lesser known games, I call them the CBS Sports Network games, then you do have a pretty familiar baseline with these players. Hopefully we gave you guys all the information you need to know in order to build some winning DraftKings and FanDuel lineups for these games or build out successful player props and parlays for these games. If this video helped you out, please hit the like button on your way out. I cannot stress enough how much I appreciate it, how much it helps me out when you guys do that. And if you have not already, make sure you subscribe to the channel. That way you can be with us for the rest of our college football content through the rest of this week and through the college football playoff and bowl season. Now, that's going to do it here for us, y'all. The Saturday episode is going to be dropping probably tomorrow night, Wednesday night. So make sure you stay tuned for that. And then, like I said, the live show this week, we haven't decided on Thursday night or Friday night yet. But what I can say is that if we go live Thursday, we're talking both slates. If we go live Friday, we are talking the Saturday slate. And what I can also say is that you're going to want to be there for that. So make sure you're subscribed. That way you can know when we go live. All right, that's going to do it here for this episode, y'all. Like I said, hopefully you guys got all the goods you need in order to build some winning lineups for this slate. I hope you guys are going to enjoy this slate like I am. This is kind of like a great appetizer for me, given that my team, Texas, is going to be playing at 7:30 Friday night, the primetime Friday night game. I'm really looking forward to that. I hope that we can beat the Aggies at home and kind of go out on a high note for the season, and certainly bring into play some college football playoff discussion, because if Texas goes 9-3 and gets left out with a game that they played at Ohio State, what I think is going to do is I think it's going to kill non-conference scheduling. Because why would you ever play a game if that's going to be held against you when you lose to the number one team in the nation? But anyway, they got to win first. Like the CFP discussions, that's going to be. I kind of like but don't like talking about all the hypotheticals with the CFP until we know what the cards actually are, right? Like until we know who actually ends up with X number of losses, like all the time. So kind of going to wait on that. But like I said, I think that Texas has a chance to make it a really interesting discussion if they win. And that's going to make Friday really entertaining, is the fact that all these games that we talked about on this slate, a lot of them have CFP implications. The Texas A&M game certainly does. And so it's just going to be a fun weekend of football that I cannot wait for. So best of luck to you guys on this Friday night slate. Thank you guys for watching and listening to this point, and I will see you guys next time.